Everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth. Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together, but do so with all your heart. Those are the words of Emperor Marcus Aurelius. And in my mind, they perfectly embody what this movie is all about. The Marvel movies have had an incredible long streak of success, and rightfully so. Not only are they just good superhero movies, they're good movies in general. Because unlike certain other superhero movies we've had to deal with before Marvel stepped into the game, the Marvel movies have made a great amount of effort to be good stories. Well, okay, most of them have. The Thor movies aren't really their best, and when it comes to Age of Ultron, well, let's just say Marvel Studios still owes Joss Whedon an apology. And he still needs a hug. But for my money, when it comes to the Marvel movies that are the best, I automatically go straight to the Captain America movies. Not just because Captain America is my favorite of the MCU characters, but because the Captain America movies seem to have been taking the most amount of risks with their stories. To this day, Captain America is still my favorite character in the MCU, not because he embodies what America is, but rather what America should be. As a character, Captain America embodies friendship, good faith in people, liberty, truth, justice, and the absolute value of independent thought. These aspects were best explored in the second Captain America movie, The Winter Soldier, which for my money is still the absolute best Captain America movie ever made. Not just because of the action, that's more like a great bonus, but because the movie openly says to the audience to question authority and always do the right thing no matter how hard it is. At this point, I think it's safe to say that Captain America is the most positive, influential character of the entire MCU, and in my mind, rightfully so. And now with Civil War, I can say that with even more confidence. The story follows Captain America and the Avengers after a small incident in which Scarlet Witch, this awesome young lady, accidentally caused a little bit of collateral damage while dealing with a bad guy. In the aftermath of said incident, the government has decided that they no longer want the Avengers operating the way they have been, with unlimited power and no supervision. The immediately recommended course of action is basically superhero registration, an agreement that states all superheroes who want to do good in the world must reveal who they are and answer to a single authority within the government. Tony Stark, aka Iron Man, is completely in favor of this, as he personally feels that with their power and responsibility, they must be held accountable, because otherwise they're no better than the bad guys. But Steve Rogers, aka Captain America, does not favor this, as he finds that answering to any single authority severely limits their ability to do the amount of good that they need to do. Also, seeing as how he spent most of his early years fighting in Nazi Germany, he can't help but equate this Registration Act to that of certain other Registration Acts, and even other Registration Acts that certain other people are trying to propose today. So because of this conflict in ideologies, civil war breaks out between Captain America and Iron Man. Both sides believe they're doing the right thing, and both sides have very justifiable reasons for being on the side they're on. And yet, neither side really wants to be taking a side. They don't want to be fighting each other, but they're forced to for reasons beyond their control. Everything that everyone is doing in this movie is for what they still believe to be a good reason. But in all seriousness, Captain America is totally right. The registration idea is complete bullcrap. Now, you can't really talk about this movie without comparing it to a certain other superhero versus movie that came out earlier this year, because not only are they both the same idea, i.e. two factions of superheroes fighting each other, but one does it significantly better than the other. See, Batman v Superman doesn't work as a versus movie because the reasons that the two characters are fighting each other are contrived, lazy, uninteresting, unethical, and just plain stupid. And because of all that, when you actually get to the fight, it's not interesting, it's not conflicting, it's not engaging, it's just boring. But with Civil War, the reasons that everyone is fighting each other are completely understandable and completely engaging because you love all these characters. You understand the reasons behind their choices. It's actually kind of similar to the moral dilemma that was explored in Eye in the Sky, where it's either this massive attack that will cause a small amount of collateral damage or do nothing and risk hurting more people. Granted, it's not the exact kind of situation, but it's similar enough in my opinion. Now, as you've seen in the trailers, there is a good amount of action, a good amount of fighting scenes, and great special effects and so on, but that's more like a bonus. The movie actually spends a lot more time with the characters talking to each other, exploring and debating the different aspects of this potential idea. It spends so much time developing the characters, expanding the universe, and progressing the story that it makes the fight scenes so much more engaging. Remember how that one scene at the cabin in Age of Ultron was the best scene in the entire movie because it actually developed the characters? The guys who made Civil War recognized that. And because of that, it makes the action so much more engaging. Now, one criticism I've heard about this movie is that it seems to spend less time with the whole registration issue and more time with Bucky Barnes, aka Captain America's best friend, who, if you're not familiar with his backstory, well, here's a brief summary. Bucky Barnes was Captain America's best friend from World War II. He unfortunately was declared MIA during a mission and was picked up by the Russians and brainwashed into being a super soldier for the Russians called the Winter Soldier. After the events of said movie, Bucky Barnes escaped his captors and began trying to remember who he is. Now, one of the major subplots in Civil War is that Bucky is accused of bombing the signing of the registration agreement. Everyone, including Iron Man, wants to bring him in because they don't trust him, but Captain America is the only one who's trying to give him the benefit of the doubt because he believes, nay, knows that there is still good in Bucky and that he wouldn't have done it. Not to mention, Captain America discovers through Bucky that there was actually a greater evil involved in this entire situation, and that Bucky is the only one who could help them. So as hard as it is, and as crazy as it sounds to everyone else around him, Captain America is forced to go rogue and help Bucky find the real evil that's at play here. This is yet again another example of Captain America reminding the world that no matter how hard the right thing is to do, you still have to do it. Now, in terms of the criticism saying it's spending less time on the Registration Act and more time on Bucky, I would say the two and two actually coincide together. Bucky, in this movie, embodies the potential issues that you would be facing with the Registration Act, because he's currently unbalanced in terms of being good or evil. He's been forced to do evil things against his will. He recognizes the evil he's been forced to do and wants to make amends for it by doing more good and trying to make up for what he did. And Captain America is the only one who is giving him the benefit of the doubt, mostly because he's his best friend, but also because he knows that Bucky has potential to do more good. And that's really what Civil War is ultimately all about. Friendship. It sounds a little corny, I know, but really, at its heart, Civil War is a story about friendship. Friendships being broken, friendships being rebuilt, friendships changing sides, friendships going through different kinds of evolutions, and so on. Furthermore, Bucky becomes the one thing that any movie like this needs: personal stakes. I commented that the big stakes, as in the end of the world, don't matter in a story unless there are some personal stakes within the big stakes to make you emotionally invested. Bucky is the embodiment of that emotional investment because he embodies all the different problems and solutions that this Registration Act can encompass. Every single fight scene, which by the way is amazingly well choreographed, minus some shaky cam here and there, is completely justified because they're meant to externalize everyone's internal conflict. And they're meant to showcase how wrong this potential registration solution is. Okay, I've obviously gone on and on about this movie a lot longer than I really should have, so here's the basic recommendation. Is this the best Marvel movie to date? Yes. Is it the best Captain America movie to date? No, for my money, the best Captain America movie is still The Winter Soldier. Is it worth seeing in theaters right now? Hell yes, please go see it. Ladies and gentlemen, I am TheNorm. Thank you all very much for watching. Go Team Captain America. Oh yeah, one more thing. Black Panther and the brand new Spider-Man, totally frickin' awesome.